For the requirement phase, you as a QA, what is that you do? You work on the analyze the requirement, right? And so analyze our requirement, and then test plan, create a test plan, and review, right? Those are the two activities that you guys do. Review the requirement, create a initial version of test plan. Those two things, right? Is there anything that you can automate here? You probably can't automate anything, right? Because it's still your human work. You still have to analyze the requirement yourself and work through that process. So there is nothing for you to automate here, okay? So this phase, you can't automate anything either. Moving on to the design phase, right? Again, what are some of the activities that you do? You have the test plan, right? Update the test plan, and you review the design as well and adjust your test plan and so forth. So again, there is nothing you can automate here, okay, during the design phase. Nothing from the QA standpoint, nothing from the design standpoint or anything else, okay? All right, so we are down 3 phases in the life cycle, right? We are on the 4th one, which is implementation phase. Is there any way we can now automate anything here? Let's talk about QA standpoint. Remember what activity you do here in the implementation. So this is where parts are coding, right? And so what is that you are doing in parallel? Right? Test cases, right? So you have test cases, create, right? Test cases, scenarios, and so forth. Now, can you automate writing the test cases? Can you automate writing the test cases, right? You cannot. So this is where you as a QA, you don't do any automation, apply any automation here. Now, is there any other automation feasible? Not from the QA standpoint, but maybe from the developer standpoint. So unit tests, right? So what developers do is write unit tests, and this is a code, okay? So they can automate this unit test. They can write in the code and then start executing every time they build the code. If you give a new version, all the unit tests will get executed. And if they passes, that means everything is working correctly, and they will give you for further testing as a QA. Okay, but from your standpoint, creating the test cases, you can't really automate anything here. Okay, so QA, there is nothing there. Now you go to the testing phase. Now, testing phase is owned by QA, right? So anything you can automate here. Well, what is that you guys do here, first of all? Execution, right? So execution or execute test case. Okay, test cases. Now, can we automate anything here? Remember the definition of automation, right? Anything that you can do without manual intervention or human intervention, that's something. And this is one area where you can apply automation here from the QA standpoint. You can think about it. You are doing regression tests. You are doing so many tests. You are always executing something over and over. So by definition, it's a repetitive work, right? Repetitive tasks, which something you can leverage the tools and techniques to automate here. So this is the phase. Testing is the one where you can apply the automation from that standpoint. Okay. And that is where we are talking about the tools here, right? So we are saying, okay, can I apply UFT tool? Can I do Ruby Cucumber? Okay, can I do Tosca? Can I do Catalan? There are so many automation tools out there. Okay. But you can pretty much apply everything in the testing phase. Now, when we talk about Ruby Cucumber a little bit, right? So it works a little bit differently than the normal tools. Think about when we say testing, right? And when you create the automation test, you need to have working software for most of the tools so that you can create the automation test. So you need to have working version of software. You need to have completed implementation phase. Then only you can create automation tests using UFT or Catalan and so forth. But with the Ruby Cucumber, you can start writing your automation test while you are going through the implementation. You can start writing it right here. Before you have working software, you can write your Cucumber test, and we will talk tomorrow a little bit further. Okay, how it's different than the UFT tool. Okay, so UFT, Catalan, and those are regression testing tools mainly. What you are executing over and over here, your regression tests generally. So if you have test cycle 1, you create the regression test. In the test cycle 2, you pretty much execute the same test over and over. That's where you apply the UFT, write the test scripts, and execute the test cycle 2 as well. Again, you still have to do some manual work, whether you use any automation tool or not, okay? Because you can't automate 100% of the things. There is no such 100% automation anywhere in the software world. That's why you always do manual plus automation if you are leveraging the tools. Is everybody clear? Here? Okay. All right, so coming back to the slides here. So let's talk about a little bit more on the automation testing side. I think you guys have the slides, but it's kind of like a little bit later, okay? So I just moved a couple of slides here. But you have it as part of the Ruby Cucumber, so don't worry about it. Okay? So now let's understand what is really automation, automated software testing here. So automation, so what you do manually, right? You write the manual test, then you execute that, and then you compare the expected, what you wrote in the test, with the actual. And then you decide whether it's a passed or failed, right? That's the process that you guys have. Again, automated software testing, it works similar way. Okay, so it will execution of the test using the tool, and then comparing the actual outcome with the predicted outcome. It's pretty much works exactly same way. Okay, since it's a tool, you have to provide certain instruction. Hey, what to look for, what makes it pass or fail. That's what you have to build with it using the tool over there. Okay, and here the automation job is to simulate real user, right? Whatever you written down manually, it will execute the same steps so that it can simulate the real user using the tool. That's all you are doing there. Okay, and as I said, I mean, there are several technologies and products are available in the market which you can use for automation testing. Now, how the tool works in general, okay? I'm not talking about specifically UFT or Ruby Cucumber or anything. How this tool works, right? So important part is if you are doing manually, right? What are the actions you are doing if you are working manually? What are the things you are doing? You are 99% of the time, okay? 99% of the time you click something on the page, or you type something with your keyboard. Is there anything else that you are doing when you're filling out a form, or you are clicking on a button, or typing something so that you can input something, right? That's what you are doing. So you are performing some action which are nothing but your steps that you are doing, right? And 99% of the time, you are doing either click or type. So that's how the real user works, right? And the tool will simulate the same behavior. Okay? So automation tool would first identify the part of the specific page that you wanna kind of like a control, right? How does the tool know what control to go and type in something? So you have to provide certain instruction to say, okay, I need to fill out Harry in the first name field. So you need to provide the instruction within the tool, and then it will simulate the same thing. It will, once it identifies a button to click or text box to fill or drop down to select, then it will do the same behavior, what you are doing manually. Okay? So, and then finally, why it can do the repetitive? Because it's able to play back. So generally the tools will record it, whatever steps you do, right? It has to go somewhere in the tool, typically in the repository in the tool, and I'll show you how the repository looks like in the UFT. And then it will play back the pre-recorded steps, basically. Okay, so don't worry about this step. If you don't understand, I'll show you how it works, the tool, so that it makes more sense. But the main idea here is there are two things within the automation tool, like a UFT. You capture, simulate the real user steps, and then how do you execute? You go and play back, basically. So there is a record and play. So you record all the steps that you want to automate, and then you play back. So that one will give you and every time you play back, it needs to get you the same result, because you are supplying some test data and so forth, and so you should get the same behavior every time. If it doesn't, that means something is passed or failed. Okay, so we'll work through that. So hopefully it will be a little bit more clear at that point. But most of the tools work similar way, except Ruby Cucumber. Okay, Ruby Cucumber is 100% programming, but the Tosca, UFT, they are more like a drag and drop and little bit less program. Okay? There is some programming involved, but not much. It's more like a scripting type of thing. But Ruby Cucumber is you have to learn the Ruby programming language and work with that. Build the automation test from scratch. Okay, which I'll show you tomorrow, so you will understand the difference. Okay, so there are a bunch of tools in the market these days. These are some of the popular ones. I think you guys all have heard about the Selenium, right? It's a big word. Pretty much everybody wants Selenium something with that. But why the people are going for that is free. Okay, that tool is free. Selenium. You don't need to pay anybody any money to write your automation test. That's the reason people are going with the Selenium and Water. So Water is built on top of the Selenium. It's kind of like a programming library on top of the Selenium. But it's specifically for Ruby programming only. You can't use it for C# or Java or anything else. Okay, so Water stands for Web Application Testing in Ruby. That's the name, Water. It's called Water. Okay, so these two are used for primarily web-based programming as well. The Water and Selenium. I think both are very popular. Specifically, they both are open source and free. That's the reason I think a lot of companies want that, or looking for that. Another popular tool here is from Microsoft, right? It's a Visual Studio Coded UI. That's a VSTP. And it comes with the Microsoft Visual Studio license. So again, it is kind of like a technically free if you have a Visual Studio Enterprise license. And the programming language it supports is VB.NET or C#. So you need to have the skill in one of these programming language to write your automation test using the coded UI. Okay. Now then next one is a UFT, which we'll talk today. it uses a VB script as a programming. So there is some scripting involved. There's some scripting involved, but you don't need to know much. Okay, and we will show you. I'll show you how easy it is to create your automation task using UFT. Now you need to understand, if you want to customize heavily your automation tasks, you obviously have to pick up the programming side of things using the VB script. But most likely in 80% of the scenarios, you record the task, playback, and it will work just fine. Okay. So that's a VB script programming, scripting language. There is another tool called SmartBear Test Complete. Okay, so there is a Test Complete. Now the both tools here, right? UFT and Test Complete are very similar. If you pick up UFT, you can download Test Complete and play around. I think you will be able to write an automation test. And I'll send you the video if you want to pick up this tool, so that you can just download it, 30-day trial license, and play around with that. Now Test Complete is from SmartBear, the SOAP UI, right? The same company owns the SOAP UI. SOAP UI is free, but this one is not free, so they charge money for this thing. Now Test Complete, obviously it has a bunch of programming languages it supports here. Okay. There is another popular one. I think some of the big companies like Nationwide, they use Tosca heavily now. So Nationwide has all three. Okay, this UFT, Tosca, plus Ruby, Cucumber, Selenium, Water, and Selenium. That's what the Nationwide use. Because it's such a big company, not a one tool. Plus the new tool comes on board and they want to try their hands on. I think that's the reason they have three different tools for automation. So Tricentis Tosca is again a codeless automation tool. Okay, codeless. There is a zero code for Tosca. And I think when we have one of the Thursdays, when Kritika gives basically some overview of Tosca, you guys will know how there is not much programming involved using the Tosca. Okay, it's mainly drag and drop and so forth. It automatically generates a script in the backend, basically. That's what it does. And here, the test cases can be developed using the drag and drop. Right, as I said, drag and dropping the modules and inputting the values. Okay. And finally, the APM is another tool. Again, it's for iOS, mobile type of web apps, and so forth. If you want to test it out, APM is the tool. Pretty much all the tools, other tools, they are web-based applications and so forth. UFT is popular because it supports multiple platforms for testing. Selenium, Water, mainly web apps. You can't test Windows-based apps, but UFT allows Windows-based applications as well. Okay, so that's the reason I think a lot of companies want some tool which can support all different platforms. So that's why the UFT or QTP is still popular. Any question on this one? Tools. Have you guys heard of anything else that you came across? Any other tool? Somebody might have mentioned to you something else, but there are plenty of other tools out there. Okay.
So these all tools can be linked to Jira or DevOps.
They can, but remember, Jira and Azure DevOps are lifecycle management tool. So that's a different set of tools.
Okay,
so you write your stories, create your test cases, and so forth. Now, when it comes to the automation, you are still doing manual testing, okay, when you use Jira or Azure DevOps. Now, if you want to integrate, there are some plugins available. How do you trigger your automation test from Jira or Azure DevOps? So once you write your automation test scripts, you can trigger that, okay, as part of those tools. But they are different purpose tools. All right. Okay, I think we already talked about which test cases to automate, right? A little bit earlier, but let's see here. So you, as I said, you can't automate everything. Okay. So you have to pick and choose what is that I can automate. Not every test scenarios you will be able to automate, first of all. So here, for picking certain tests, choose a test that would you need to run every build of the application. So kind of like a most. So if you are running certain tests over and over again, and typically that's what you call regression test, right? You are running something, some changes happen in the module, and you have to execute bunch of other tests again. So regression testing from your standpoint is the most common one to automate. So you don't, again, you're probably not going to run 100% of the tests. You're going to pick and choose. Okay, out of 50 manual tests, I'm going to pick maybe 25 to automate. Okay, and that would become part of your regression testing in there. Now, there are certain load and performance tests you can automate as well, because you can't do manually. If you are, let's say your application supports 1,000 users, so you can't ask 1,000 people to log in at the same time. That's where you have to use some performance testing, stress testing tool to automate that scenario. Okay, so but there are different kind of tools over there. I think we talked about JMeter, load runner, win runner in the overview. But again, it's a different skill sets and different scripting and all those things. You're probably not going to touch it as a QA. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't know. Okay, so pick up. Maybe you watch a video on the JMeter or something, and they are very easy to pick up as well. Those two. But sky is the limit. I mean, when you talk about certain tools. But I think it's good to have load testing on the resume. Okay, just watch a video and say, okay, you know this tool, you may not have experience, which is okay, perfectly fine. That will increase your marketability as well. All right. I'm going to skip this slide and we'll see it later. Okay. So before I go on the UFT side of things, everybody clear about the automation, right? What it is and what we can automate and what are the test cases we should be automating. And we can't automate everything. So that's the important part as well. All right. So let's talk about the UFT tool specifically. So far what we discussed, you can apply to any tools, right? But let's talk about UFT specific things that we can use. So UFT is no longer from HP, okay? It's from Micro Focus Kobo. They sold the tools to Micro Focus Kobo. So now the different company owns the UFT, okay? That's a very small item. And why it's popular? Okay, it's easier to use and implement for non-technical users. Okay, non-technical testers. So as I said, I mean, there is not much scripting. You need to understand what it is and how it works, but you don't create from scratch those programs. Okay, so the automation test. And that's the reason it's popular, because it's geared towards non-technical testers as well. And as I said, the scripting language is VB which is very easy to understand. The language is very simple. Obviously, it's a programming, right? So you can create your custom functions, subroutines, say whatever you need to do. If there are complex scenarios, yes, you will have to write some custom scripts and work with that. But most likely, the web apps that you're going to deal with, you can handle, as I said, 80% of the time without writing a single piece of code over there. And it supports pretty much, as I said, why it's popular, right? It supports bunch of platforms, technologies, Windows-based app, web apps, thick client, thin client, all kind of things. Now it does have its own limitation. Okay, it cannot support certain technologies, but we are not concerned about that. Okay, like a certain ERP software, certain older technologies like Power Builder and so forth, but nobody uses them anymore. So UFT basically it can support most, but not all. Okay. All right. So let me show you one simple. So the way we will work with this tool is, I'll show you guys one demo. Then basically you guys will build the same thing using the tool. Then we'll build additional tests. So there'll be at least three or four demos that I will work through. And I'm hoping by the end of the day, I think you guys should be good. I think everybody has installed right tool, so we don't have to worry about it. Installation. Don't touch your laptop yet. Okay, let's just pay attention. I'm just gonna walk you through some basic things, and then you can get you plenty of chance to work through your stuff. Okay, so let's first of all, I'm gonna switch to a demo mode now. So how do you open the software? So I think everybody should have UFT, right, on the machine, and you just simply run it. Now here it will pop up a license window, right? It's a 30-day trial license. Okay. So if you install on Thursday, so you got 28 more days, it will show it for you. You don't have a license, so you have to click on continue. Okay, you can't install license because you don't have it. And the second time, it will pop up this dialog box. So what it is, so this is kind of like a first time it will pop up generally. So here, web application is selected, mobile is selected, but if you have any other thick client application, like a desktop application, you can select Visual Basic add-ins. So these are add-ins. So if you are testing SAP, right, SAP software, you could have add-in called SAP here, which is enabled. All it does is it will enable the libraries so that you can interact with that application, whether it's a Windows or web-based or whatever. So right now we don't worry about it. We will test the web app, right? And I'm going to uncheck this show on startup, so I don't want to get popped up next time. Okay, so this box will be this dialog box will not be shown next time. Okay. Now, for the first time, it might take few minutes. Okay, depending on your computer speed. So it might take maybe 2 minutes to load the software. It's a little bit memory intensive software. Okay. All right, so it's kind of like looks similar to the SOAP UI, right? So let me tell you what it is. So on the left side, right, you have Solution Explorer. Remember, in the SOAP UI, you have projects concept, right? It's the same thing. You have solution, which is a grouping of all the projects you can have. So for this purpose here, just to get you some, so you have a solution, you can have your project one, or you can have test one as part of your project one. Okay, project two, and then your test two here. Now test two meaning this is automation script. Okay, so this one would be your second project, this one can be your first project, and so forth. Or you can organize something like this. Okay, project one, then you can have test one, you can have test two, and so forth. You can do that as well. Okay, but I would rather have you create separate projects for every test. Okay, it's easier to manage sometimes your automation test. Okay, so that's what the Solution Explorer is. Start page is nothing but it's just showing you what are the different tests that you have opened recently. Kind of like a Microsoft Excel and Word. You can see what are the recent files that you deal with. You can close out those windows by closing that, click on that. Okay. Now on the top side, there are important menu items that I'm going to go over. So file, new, test. Okay. So here you always deal with the file, new, and let's say you want to create a new test. So this is what you will do. Select the test. You can also do new solution, right? If you don't want to use the existing solution, let's say you have already opened some tests and so forth, but you want to create a new one, you say new solution, and then you add more tests into the solution. Other items, function library, if you have the code, basically, and so forth, application area, business component. We don't gonna care. Right now, we will worry about test. That's the only part we'll worry about, okay? Solution, we won't worry about either, because we wanna group all the tests in a single solution. Okay? So let me go and do new file, new test. Okay. Now here, there are a few things here, right? So in the UFT, you have different types of tests you can create. So GUI test is the most commonly used test for our purpose. But the API test, right? This is nothing but the web service testing. So using SOAP UI, you can do the web service testing, plus using this tool as well, you can do the web service testing. So you can play around on your own time on the API test, but for our purpose, we'll focus on GUI tests because we want to automate the web app, basically those automation for the web app, okay? Not the web services. Business process test, process flow, I practically never use it in the real life, but it is available. So you can read upon it a little bit more if you need. Okay, so for now, we'll work with GUI tests. And here, there are three sections: name, location, and solution. So name is, what is your test about? You can give some meaningful name. So let's say valid login test, basically. So what I'm just gonna start working with a simple scenario here. So I will have a login test. So I'm just gonna log in and verify it, and then I'll be done. Okay. So this is my test. So I'm going to give some meaningful name. Now, if you don't give it, the name is already there. Okay. So GUI test 2. So you can keep it, but always give some meaningful name. Okay. Second thing, where it will store physically on your computer. So this is the path it will put your test in. For me, it's a C users Intel documents unified functional testing folder, and then it will create a valid login test file within that folder. So anything that I do with this test, all the steps that all the scripts will go in the same file, in this location. Okay. And finally, solution name. See, it automatically puts in the valid login test here, but you can always change solution name. Let's say Rflown solution or whatever, right? Because I will have multiple tests in the same project, so I'll say Rflown solution. You don't have to change it, but if you want to change it, you can go ahead and change it. Okay. And then finally you do create. So it will do something and open up something for you, something like this. Okay. All right. This is again a small issue here. Don't worry about the left side, but it's a test added over there, but main part is here. Okay. So what it does, it opens in some graphical format, but I don't like this view. So here, what it says is, this is your start, this is your end, this is the actual test script here. Action 1 is my test script. That's where I want to be. So in order to look at the actual steps, what it's doing, you have to double click on it, and it will open up the action 1 script window. So you will be in the script window, and this is where your code, whatever the code it will generate, you can see it here. Okay. Now let's see what we are testing, right? What are we automating first? So what I'm going to do is, let's talk about the scenario. So if I'm doing a login scenario here, okay, with a valid credential. Okay, so assuming you can write the manual test here, right? So what are my steps here? So if this is my scenario, this is my test case, what would be my steps? Right? So go to R site. Logically, okay? I'm logically speaking. And you're gonna provide URL, and you will have some expected, right? That would be my first step. My second step would be enter username. And whatever username, let's say as training. Third step would be enter password. Training. And fourth would be click login, right? And there is no extra, nothing there. But what are you verifying? Valid homepage is displayed. This is a very basic scenario, right? But you have to have steps in order to automate anything. Okay. So if you don't know how to write manual tests, you can't automate whatever you're doing, because this is the part of your manual testing. Okay. All right. So this is my scenario here. Let's see how we using the tool, we can automate this scenario here. Okay. So now I am in the tool. I don't have any script, so I need to provide instruction to follow the same behavior or same step. Okay. So first of all, tools are tools, right? They work a little bit differently. So the first step, go to Rfluent site URL. Okay. So there are few things here. So as I said, right, it's going to be record and play with this tool. So I need to record something, whatever scenarios, whatever steps I have, then I'll be able to play back for automation. Okay. So this part is important, record. Okay. So this menu item, and there is a record and run setting. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is open this up. And for you, I think it will be selected this one by default, first time you are opening up. But you want to select open following address when the record and run begins. So what I'm providing is step one tool. You have to configure it. Okay, so this part is more of a configuration in the tool, the URL part. Okay, everything else you will be able to follow through, but this part is a configuration in the tool. So I will come to the web tab. So there are 3 tabs here, right? Web, mobile, and Windows. So if I'm testing mobile app, I'll use configure this mobile tab, mobile window, Windows app if I'm using the desktop. But for my purpose, it's a web app. So I will need to provide URL, something like this. So you select this tab and then you type in rfluent.azurewebsites.net, the URL. Okay. And then you can select the browser that you want to work with. I'm just going to leave Explorer by default, okay, because it works well with the Windows Explorer. But you can try with the Chrome. If something doesn't work, you always switch the browser. Okay. Now, if you want to use any other browser, make sure you have browser installed on your machine. If you don't have Google Chrome, then you can't use this option. Okay. So that's why I start with the Explorer, see if everything works, and then you're good. So at this point, my configuration is done. This is my first step. When I configure it, it's my first step is done. Go to the site. So what it will do is, when I start recording the steps, it will open the browser window for me automatically at this point, and then I can do my other activity. Okay. So let me go ahead and see how we can start recording. Okay, so that we can play back for later on. Okay, so my first of all, there is a record button here, which is this is the one you want to trigger to record your script. Okay, So let me go and do that. And I'll wait for a few seconds. It will open the window. Basically, this is it's trying to execute the first step for us now. Okay. So trying to open the Internet Explorer because I have selected that browser. And let's see if it opens up here. All right. Yeah, sometimes this tool, so this is my new laptop, so I just installed it yesterday. Hopefully it opens up. Okay. At least it took a while on my machine. Okay. First time it might take a while. So I don't see any activity, nothing is happening in the background, right? Because this is just opening up a URL. Okay. But let's keep an eye on the background window here, right? So now my second step is log in with S training, right? Fill out S training. Now some activities happen here, okay? And then I have training. Should see some activity happening here. And then I click on login. Okay, so some activity happened here. So 3 steps I should be able to see here. Now, if you don't see any activity happening here, that means there is some configuration issue on your computer, okay, with the tool. But don't panic, we'll work through those things. So at this point, I'm just going to close out window. My test is pretty much done, recording. And I'm going to, now this window is very important, okay? So you close the browser window, but make sure you hit the stop button, here or here. Either one is fine. So it will stop the recording here. Now let's see what it did for us, okay? So here, in my first step, it puts some script here, okay? So what it does is, let's understand what this part is, okay? So I'm gonna copy that, and let's see if we can, if I can show you what it did here. Okay. So what typically we have is, this is, let's assume this is our browser window, right? This is a browser. And for us, it's IE, Internet Explorer, okay? Then within the browser, we have a specific page open. And how can you tell specific page is there? So let me go there. Because I'm on the home page, right? If I log in, then I'm on the admin info homepage, on admin info page. If I go to the user management, then I'll be on the user admin page, okay? So I'm on the different page. So what the tool does, let's understand. So this is on the home page, okay? So, and then you have some type of web adding, okay? So on the home page, I have different controls here, and I have a login, something like that. And this is where I'm entering something. This is where I'm entering something. So look at here. So you are in the browser. So first thing would be your browser. Then second part is your page, which page you are on. Okay. And third part is what control you are interacting with. And how does it know what control to interact? So this part is very important. Okay. This is the ID or name of control. ID and name are typically unique for every control on the page. Okay, so if I this control, this text box, right? It gets some type of ID or name with that is unique. This one is also unique. This one also has some ID or name unique. That's how the tool gets handled to specific control, and then all I'm doing is some type of action, which is set training as training. So it's setting the value as training to that control. That's how we are providing the instruction. Our tool is generating the instruction for us. Now, how do you know what is ID here? So let me go back here to the page here. Okay. So I think Dilip mentioned to you, you can always do view source, right? Right click on the page and do view source. But there is an easier way. I can right click on the control, go to the control, right click and do inspect. Okay. So when you do that, it will show you what is this control. It's a CTL00 main txt username. Okay. So if I go to the password, right click inspect, CTL main 00 txt password. Okay. So this is how. So let's go back to our script here because it's very important for you guys to understand what it's doing. So this is a username, right? And this is a password. Second action is password. So this is how but based on the name of the control or ID of the control, the browser, the UFT tool will capture, hey, I need to do some action like writing as training, set meaning write something, okay? As training in this control, then this password will get some type of set secure. Since it's a password, it is typing in set secure, but I can always change it to dot set here, and I can put in password in the plain text, which is training. Okay, so set is for setting the value into the controls. Okay, so you will see that. Remember what actions we are doing, either we are setting some values or clicking on it, right? So that's what you are for the button. It automatically says click action, right? So it clicked on it. Then I had something else which is generated. Maybe I clicked on some other thing. So you need to remove that. Okay, manually you can modify the scripts yourself. My script supposed to be okay. I need to enter username, password, then click on it, then page sync, and I think we'll see the sync a little bit further, but leave it there. What the sync does is when you click on it, right, page doesn't display automatically, right? It might take few seconds first time. So it waits. It just waits. Sync allows it to wait before I close out the window. So it might add like maybe a couple of seconds in your script. That's all it does. Okay. So once, so let's come back here. So this is a browser. This is a page. This is the control, and then we are doing some action. Whatever value you are setting. That's the part. Make sure you guys understand that part. Any question on this part?
So the dot set, you can change the.
Yeah, so there are certain methods available, right? Typically, you will have set and dot set secure, okay, for the control. If it's a password, it will automatically capture as a set secure, and then it will have password encrypted. That's what the encryption was. But you can always change it password to set and put the plain text password without encryption. Okay. Now, if you are using programmatic way, you can use other methods. But for now, just focus on set and click. Okay, those are the only two things. Any other question? Okay. All right. So once you record it, right? Now, how do I automation, right? So how do I run this? So there is a run button here next to it, and it's all plain simple. Click on and run, and it will pop up this type of dialog box. Don't worry about it. But what it is, it's if you expand, it will say where do I store my results. Okay, so that's all it is. So ignore for now, leave it default, right? And you just will simply click on run. So it will execute your test and start executing your script. And at this point, it executed my test and gave me some nice result window. Okay. So it pops up. This is a result window that it popped up for us. And if you have failures, you will see it here. If you have passed, you will see it here. Now here, see, you will be able to expand, collapse. Make sure you get familiar with it. Expand, collapse, twisty type of thing. Okay. But important part is this is my action, this is my test, and summary, right? This is my first step. Okay. Go to the browser. This is my home page, and within that, I have this tab called what I'm typing in as training. Then I'm typing in training. Then I'm doing the login click. And finally, I have page sync, right? Page sync and closing the tab. So these are my steps. You can see it here. Now, what it did here? Why am I not seeing pass or fail or anything here? It doesn't tell me passed or fail, right? Currently, result details. Let's see here. I'm trying to find one window here. Where do you go? Oh, it's at the bottom. Yeah, current run, right? It's right now it's not showing either passed or failed. It just ran the script. So what are we missing here? So if you are doing this test, right? Let's go back to our test. So what is our validation here? How do I know if this scenario passed or failed? What are we doing with this scenario? Based on what we have here. So on the login click, I'm going to validate my home page is displayed. Now, when you say validate home page is displayed, what you're gonna do? What is that you're gonna look for? You're a tester, right? So you are looking at, if I executing manually, right? I'm forget about automation. If I'm following this instruction, what is that I'm supposed to do?
We should give some kind of input, like what should be the outcome.
This is your outcome, right? This is what we said. Validate that home page is displayed. Validate my home page is displayed, whatever. Or site admin home page is displayed. What you're gonna do here so that you can say passed or failed. Check on what? No. How can you tell this scenario passed or failed? This is a very basic scenario, right?
You will have the login person's welcome Charles or welcome whoever to know that if the login is passed or failed.
So if I'm a S training user,
Oh.
right? So I should say maybe S training's a name, welcome whatever name.
Yes.
Okay, that's one way. But what if the guy changes the name? Your scenario will be invalid, right? Or if you use different login and password. So what is the way here? So if I go here, let's do manually, right? How can I tell it's passed or failed? Looking at the screen here. So as we said, right? You can do something here, Charles. Welcome, Charles. I can do that. But what if the name changes? My scenario would be failing, start failing. So if I log in as a G training, what's different here?
The accessible app on the top as a site admin versus a dealer.
So here, dealer has a dealer homepage, right? This part is different. So you have to pick out. see, you are the tester and you have to come up with some creative things, okay? Maybe looking at the name or may not be always be true because it could change, name could change. But this part, dealer will always see dealer homepage at the top, right? Now, if I use S training and training, now this guy also see dealer homepage at the top, okay? But he has a admin homepage that is unique for this guy. So you can use one of this thing that is unique to him. Maybe user management or, but again, admin homepage would be most logical, right? So if I go to the G training, you might say, oh, I can see calculator instead of the dealer homepage. This is unique for this guy. If I log in as a L training and training, which is a lender user, so this one is a lender homepage, which is not on the dealer or anywhere. Okay, so those are some of the things you have to do when you say I'm on my right homepage. Okay, so now can you guys tell me why we don't see it here in the automation? Because we have not provided any instruction to the tool what makes it pass or fail. Okay, because tools are tools. You have to provide certain instruction to look for that tab or maybe welcome text or something so that it can say, yep, this scenario passed or failed.
So we can go back and put that in?
You can always go back and put that in. Yes, that's correct. Now here in the tool, there is unless you know how to write a script, you probably wouldn't be able to put that in manually. So for you guys, all you have to do is re-record the script with the additional verification built in into that. Okay, but let's hold off on the verification part because I want to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so for now we'll stop the part here, and I'll let you guys work through the same exercise so that you can at least get some familiar with the tool here. Okay, any question?
What do you mean by name can change? The user and first name is always going to be the same.
Well, if the person gets married, right? So or something, maybe they change the name. Maybe they want to use alias. So that's it could change, right? You don't want to change your script, depend your script on somebody's name. Most likely, you probably won't. Okay. So there are other ways. So you want to stick to the proven ways. All right. So any other question? All right. So let's before I get too far with the tool, let's work through at least one exercise, small exercise, right? Same one, and see if you guys run into any trouble or issues. Okay. So work with the same exercise here that I have it. I'm going to leave this one open here. Now you guys know how to access the tool and so forth, right? So make sure you fire up the tool, double click on the action, right? This is where you want to be. And then record it. And before that, make sure you do record and run setting. Record, run setting. How about I leave this this window open? Okay. So I'm going to walk you through the steps again. So hopefully everybody is on this page, right? So first thing you want to do is configure the tool. Okay. So I'm going to say where is my URL under record and run settings, and this is how it should look like. Okay. So open the following address and then type in the URL on the site. If you don't have this configured correctly, it will not do anything for you. Okay. Make sure you have it this thing. Then only you will be able to record and follow the steps. Now, if you click anywhere else, like I'm clicking here, this thing is going to start recording those actions as well somewhere. Okay, so that shouldn't be part of your steps. All you have to do is type in username, password, and click and close the window if you did that. So here I have this thing clicked here. It's not a valid step, so I need to manually remove it. So once it's generated, make sure you correct your steps. Okay, so this is first fine. Then I was going to change set secure to set. To stop. Okay. All right. So I think I try to change it while it's recording. So it's throwing me a bunch of errors now. So what I'm going to do is hopefully I can get back. So my first step should be login, password, login, click, sync, close all tabs. That's all. So always read your steps, okay? And clean up anything that you're not needed. And at this point, I'm good, very good. Semi Ultet, yeah, you guys good online?
Yes, sir, I'm good. All right, I'm going to get you guys another 10 minutes and then we'll move on to the next topic.
After this steps, we have to stop recording.
Yeah, you have to stop recording, right? Okay. So I hope you guys got some idea about how the tool works, at least some idea. Now there are a few more things that I want to show you. So let me go ahead and start recording again. Okay. Now generally, a couple of things. So when you start recording, I think most of the time your tool will work okay. If it shows up like in the half a window and so forth, but you always want to maximize it generally. And the second part is the zoom setting, right? Make sure it's always 100%. Okay, if you have it maybe 175 or maybe something else other than 100, then the tool will not record it properly. Okay, so here, if I'm typing in something, okay, and let me close out. So it captured me the same step twice, so I'm going to remove it. If I run it, so sometime it will work, sometime it will not. Okay, and it's important when you are trying to put the verification thing, it may or may not work properly. So for this one it works, but when I show you the actual verification step, it may not work properly over there. Okay. Okay, so let's go back again, recording side. Now, as you guys see it right here, this is more like a recording menu. Okay, during the record time, it pops up this item. And here, let's see what these things are. So important part is stopping, right? You guys are all using this stop button to stop recording. Then there are a few other things. Let me put this one back to 100 again so that I can see it. Okay, so this hourglass, it's called object spy. Okay, so what it is so this head and glasses. So UFT you can look at it, the object properties using that hourglass there. Okay, so it pops up this menu, and then I click on this one again, and any object that I want to see the properties. So kind of like a login, right? So I can see the properties of the login button and work with that. I personally don't use that much because I like to go see inspect, right? I showed you inspect earlier. What I mean by that is, let me close this one. This inspect window, right? Right click on it, and now see here, it's in the IE, it's called inspect element. But if you open in the edge, it's an inspect and so forth. But again, it does the same thing. So it pops up a window, and hopefully I can see. Yep, there you go. So I can see all the properties. This is HTML element, right? So input name equals this, class is equal login input, ID equals this, and type equals text. So that's the name of the element. Now you can also do for the button. So it's a class button, ID equals this, style equals this, and so forth. By the way, what kind of object is this? Is anybody recognize? Login. What kind of HTML element is that? Looking at the HTML here. So I'm looking at this HTML part here. What type of HTML element is that? Is that a button? Is that a text? Is that a link? Is that what is it? What is it? Are you sure it's a button? It's not text, right? I'm talking about this login here. Click or is not an element. I'm talking about what type of control it is. Looking at the HTML here, which is highlighted. So you guys did not went through the W3 schools, I guess, site, I'm assuming. Now it gets very important, okay? When you are talking about automation, you have to know that HTML inside out and understand what these things are, okay? So it's a control, right? There are a bunch of controls here. This one is a specific control with a tag A here. And it's a link, it's not a button, okay? When you see that anchor control, it's a link, okay? It's not a button. Even though it looks like a button, but it's not really a button, all right? It's important because if you don't understand, then you might code your stuff as a button and your program will not work. Plus, there are a bunch of properties associated with it. So you need to get familiar with what these properties are. Style, IDs, specifically ID, name, how do I get to the name, and so forth. Okay. Now, what the tool does, right? All the tools, they work with the properties of these controls. And I'll show you in UFT where it gets stored. So what the tool does, when you're recording it, right? And you are clicking on here, So it's gonna grab certain properties of this link. So it will probably grab the ID or name. It will grab basically the text of the link. Okay, login to add it and store it in some type of repository within the tool. Okay, during the record time. And when you run it, right, it will identify the control based on the ID or name, whatever you have specified. Plus, it will also look at the login button links and make sure it's the right object. Okay, and then click on it. So it's very important. I mean, specifically the verification that I'm going to show you, because what happens is when you run during the runtime and record time, the properties are different. It will fail that basically test right there. That's how most of the tool will work. Okay. So let me show you the actual example here. So we will work through that. All right. So let me come back here. So I'm going to record now. Okay, so now I'm recorded. All these things are here. But if I want to see the properties, what it captured during the record, I can go to the resources and click on object repository. Okay, so here, actually I need to stop the test. Forgot to stop. And I want you guys to take a look at it on yours as well, because I'm not sure it will be visible clearly here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is on the home page, right? So I have this txt password control open. Okay. And I can see certain properties here, like what's the ID of the control, what is the value, if there is any value, and so forth. So everything gets stored into the repository at this point. Including wherever you clicked earlier and so forth. So it will keep all the objects and put it in the repository. The way you can open it, go to the resource and object repository so that you can see on your machine. So everybody got it? At least I try to access it, right? And you can play around and take a look at it. But I want to show you something else as well. So hopefully you can go back and work through that. Okay. So let me move on. So that's one part. The second part, which is important part. So I'm recording right now my simple test case with HPHP login and login. Okay. That's training and training. Okay, I'm here. Now, so far we haven't provided any instruction to what to validate, right? So let's see how we can validate on the page. So let's say I'm going to validate the welcome charts. Okay, we're gonna keep it simple. We'll just verify, hey, I'm logging in and I'm going to validate the username is, or the name shows up as welcome charts over there. Okay. So again, on the record window, you have this hourglass type of thing. So you click on it and there are a bunch of things available. Okay, this is important part. So these are called checkpoints. For verification, they are called checkpoints in the tool. And there are various kinds here. So standard checkpoints, text checkpoint, text area checkpoint, you have bitmap checkpoint, database checkpoint, XML, file content, and so forth. So this checkpoint are nothing but checkpoints are that allows you to verify the expected information is displayed in your application while the test is running. So it will capture during the runtime, it will capture what is expected. And when you run it automation fashion, then it will compare with the captured value with the runtime value. That's how the tool will know. And the way you can do it is you can create a checkpoint on the value that you want to verify, okay, during the runtime. So here, there are a bunch of checkpoints here, right? So important ones, there are a couple of important ones, which I'll point out. The standard checkpoint, this one works with any HTML control, standard checkpoint. And the text checkpoint works with any text you want to verify on the page. Okay, so two important ones, text checkpoint and the standard checkpoint. Now there are a bunch of other checkpoints, right? So let me just quickly glance through that. So if you want to verify the properties of an image during the runtime, you can insert the image checkpoint. If you want to verify any values in the database, you can use the database checkpoint. Like it will execute the query and verify the value from the database type of thing. There is XML checkpoint, verifying the XML file content. So you can scan the file and see if the value is same as whatever was expected, and so forth. But as I said, I mean, the text and standard checkpoint are the most common one. You will use 99% of the time. Okay, for special scenarios, you will use XML or database or whatever other one. So let's come back here. So my test is I'm recording here, right? So how do I insert a checkpoint so that I can verify the child's value? So I'll come back to this hourglass. It says insert checkpoint, right? So I'll click on this menu and I'll click on the text checkpoint. Okay. Now I'll go to the child's and click on it. So it will pop up another box. Check that displayed between Lenderman and again, it did not capture properly because I'm expecting to see Charles' value over there, right? So I'm gonna click cancel. Let's come back, use the text checkpoint again, and I'll come back here. Check that again, it's not between welcome and this is what happens if you don't have the settings properly, then it might adjust your thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. Let me wipe out. I'm going to open the Internet Explorer directly before I record. Make sure all the settings are correct. Okay, Zoom is 100. Okay, that's good. And I will maximize my screen as well, so no worries. Now I'm going to close out. And now I'm going to re-record. Hopefully now it will open in the 100% mode and so forth. See, when you are doing it, right? So it will also increment the step here. Okay. If I click on it, it will be 4 here and so forth. Okay. So you will know. Now here, I want to verify this value. So I'll go and try again the text checkpoint, see if it works. Now it's saying check that value Charles is displayed. Okay, so that's the issue you will face with the UFT if you don't have it maximized and 100%. This is very common. Okay. So now we are going to verify that Charles is displayed between welcome and auto repair financial. Tool captured that. Okay. So I'm going to click OK, close the browser window, and stop the run. And let's see if my test is captured properly. First step is good. Second step, I think I have some issue with the password, so which is fine. And I'm going to leave set secure here. Click page, this checkpoint. So once I log in, I'm going to verify, hey, something is displayed on the page that is captured as a checkpoint. Then sync and close. Now, how do I know what is captured in the checkpoint? You go back to the repository. So you go back to the repository here. And now I will see the checkpoint under checkpoints. So it shows me this is captured for the checkpoint. You will see a checkpoint here on the left side. You click on the whatever checkpoint name is there, and then you will see, okay, what is that we captured for the checkpoint. So we are verifying Charles is displayed between that, and it's this is the value it will verify, Charles. Okay. So for now, I'm going to close out because I just verified it's captured properly. And if I run it, so now my tests is showing a different here. It's a green arrow. Okay, so it is passed. Now, how can I tell what is came out? So if I go to the page at checkpoint, then it says checkpoint captured Charles between welcome and auto repair financial, which is expected and actual basically. Okay, so if I want to fail this test, what do I need to do? What I can do is in the object repository, I go back. Let's say I'm expecting a different value. So I'm going to go back here. And what I'll do is this constant Charles, instead of that, I'll say Charlie. Okay. So now my checkpoint stored is expecting a value of Charlie instead of Charles. Okay, just to simulate how can I fail the test, okay, so that you know how the repository works. So if I run this, so now it failed the test. If I go to the checkpoint, text checkpoint captured Charles between this, but it was expected was Charlie. Okay, so now you can play around with the checkpoint and work with different things. This is how you can tell the tool to pass or fail your test case, automation test. Okay, let's come back. So this is one way, right? We use the text checkpoint, which is commonly used, but let me get rid of it. And let's see if we can use something else. So again, I'm going to run the same scenario. Let's say I want to capture this Herschel. Okay, I want to verify this whether this admin homepage is present or not. So again, I will use go to the checkpoint, right? In this menu, and I will use the standard checkpoint. Okay, because this is HTML box link, so I can click on this one. Then it will automatically capture link in admin homepage. Okay, and I'll click OK. So here it popped up this dialog box, right? So as I said, right, it will capture all the properties from the, and then it will compare during the runtime. If you change the link name or any of the properties in the tool software, then it will fail when you run next time. Okay, main thing is compare the inner text, the text of the HTML link and so forth, and it will store it. So for now, I'll just click OK and close out, stop recording, and let me rerun. And if everything is captured correctly, then it should pass. And then I can go to the checkpoint, see what it captured. It captured this control, all the properties pretty much, comparing with the runtime properties, including the tags and everything. Okay. And I can go see in the resources what it had. So this time I have an admin homepage, and I can see all the properties here. So if I change any of the properties to anything, something else, then it might fail, basically. So if I close it, if I run it again, and it should compare and fail this test case. Let's see. So it failed this time because the properties captured were different. Yep, it says this particular property did not match. It was expecting 1212 or something like that. This part is very important. Okay, if you don't understand, then let me know. How do you put the checkpoint and how do you compare the value? Because this one will allow you to pass or fail your test. The second part, right? Once you insert the checkpoint, the tool will capture the screenshot of the screen, and generally it will put it in as well. Okay, that's what you are seeing in the bottom. Screen record, the result details, and something at the bottom, captured data. Okay. All right, any question on the checkpoint? So let's work through that. The same exercise I want you to repeat. Use the text checkpoint first, and the second checkpoint, get rid of the text, re-record it with the different checkpoint. Okay, and check and change the value in the repository. See if you are able to fail it and verify the result. And once you are done with that, then I have a couple of more tests for you. Then I want you guys to run this search dealer by dealer name and login calculator. See if you can create an automation test for that.
Actually, after you close the tab,
So I think the first one is pretty straightforward, right? So I mean, you log in with the appropriate user. I think most of you are logging in as admin, right? Go to the dealer. We try to search Germain. So all search. And what checkpoint you guys use?
I just used the domain name Germain, and then when I went back,
Yeah,
I just changed my checkpoint to GER.
yeah, that one is a negative if you want to test out that one, but it's not necessary for this one. But what checkpoint you guys used here?
I used the standard checkpoint.
Standard. Make sure you use standard because this is more like a control. So text is just for verifying something on a browser somewhere. See, it's a link, so use that. And here, all the properties, right? Let's say you want to verify all the properties, so you can uncheck certain properties. So it will verify only these two, which are checked. Okay. And that's it. At this point, it's recorded. Stop it, and we can run it. It should verify the checkpoint here. Yep. So it will verify only those two properties. Those are checked.
So what is the second bullet point that you want us to do? Calculation.
It's a valid loan amount, loan calculator. Okay. So I'm going to flip back to the slides here. All right. So let's pay attention here for a few minutes, and I'll let you guys work through afterwards. So there is a concept called parameterization. Okay, test parameterization. Okay. So let's work through one scenario here. So your loan calculator, right? Loan calc, and you are sending 1,000 and giving you 30, right? But you want to run through multiple amounts and maybe one tab, okay, 1,030, maybe developer coded 30 is good. But let's say you have amount called 2,500 and you should get you different amount. Maybe it should be, what is it? 75. So you want to run through maybe different various loan amounts so that you can see if you are getting the right result for maybe 3 or 4 different loan amounts. Instead of running just one and saying, yeah, I'm good, my test will work okay. Maybe the calculation is complex, right? So you might want to run through multiple amounts. And here, if you can run through 2,000, it should get you 60, right? So how do you handle that? So in a normal world, right? So you will record the test with 1, then you have second test, and then you have third test that can validate that, right? So what I mean by that is, if I go back to my UFT here, so essentially what I'm saying is I have one test, then I can have second test, and then run through. But it's not practical, right? Because you don't want to copy paste the code multiple times and work through it. So there is in the tool, there is a nice way of specifying this thing. So let me get rid of this one first. So I'm going to re-record my test, and then I'll show you how you can supply multiple values in your test. Okay, so that you can use the parameter position.
So let me log in G training again. Okay, calculator, and I'll record a simple scenario first. Again, 30, and I know this time standard works. So I'll just go to the standard. And welcome, web element 30 is good. Now here, when you are doing that, right? So so what you can do is instead of having let's first uncheck this one because I want to validate only this one, right? Now here is the constant. Okay, so $30. Now, eventually what we want to do is we want to verify 30, 75, 60, different amount for different inputs, right? So I can parameterize right there, click on this parameter here, okay? And then I can give some meaningful name. What is it? It's a monthly amount. I can change it here. So I have to go here and change the name here, monthly amount. Let's see what it does. Okay, then I'll explain it. Leave everything else default. So I'm just giving some meaningful name. Okay, that's all it is. So it was updated here. It says data table, monthly amount, and put it in a global sheet. So there is a data sheet available with every text that you have. Okay, so let's see what it does. So I'll change to parameter, right? Parameter instead of hard coding constant, and I've just changed the name to some meaningful name and clicking OK. All right. So now at this point, my test is done. I created one parameter for the output. I haven't done anything for the input yet. Okay. So I'll show you how we can do for the input. So at this point, I'll close out the window and I'll say stop recording. Okay. So it still says here, if I look at this line, it says set 1000, calculate, and then checkpoint, which is good. There is no difference in the test you will see. But what it did is, at the below, there is a global data sheet, kind of like Excel-like thing. So it created that at the bottom, and it added one column in there called monthly amount, and it has a value of $30. Okay, so which is good. If I run this test, it should pass from there. Okay, so test is passed and it's just like normal. So now what we want to do is, so we parameterize only this amount, monthly amount, but we want to parameterize this loan input as well, right? So how do we do that? What I'm saying is we want to parameterize, instead of hard coding 1000, we want to supply different values, okay? And match it up with the different output, basically. That's all essentially we are saying. So the easiest way you can do that, parameterize this value, is you can flip to the different view called keyword view. Okay, since you guys don't know coding, okay, that's the reason I'm flipping to the different view. If you know coding, you can just change it here to the simple thing, one line here. But since you guys don't know coding, so we're gonna flip to the keyword view. It just shows it differently. Okay, it will show the information a little bit differently here. Again, it's exactly same thing. There is no difference in the steps or anything, but it will show you in a nice table format. That's all. Okay, so checkpoint. So first, our steps are here, right? I'm logging in, right? All these things, page 2, calculator click, page 4, set 1000. So instead of set 1000, what I can do is I can click on this value, and there's a small arrow type of thing. Okay, something like this. That pops up. It's kind of like something like this. Okay, this is the icon. You will see it here on the right side. That's what I'm going to click on. Okay, on that value. And it will pop up this dialog box. Again, it's a constant. Instead of that, I'll say make it parameter. It's a data table. So this is what is referring to data table. at the end, Excel. Okay. And here the name, which column, I should copy it. So I will say loan amount, change some meaningful name so that you know what is the input value. And this is a global sheet. This is what is showing at the bottom, and I will click OK. So it just added a loan amount here. So if I run the test now, right? And if I have the values here, multiple values, it will repeat the test for all different values and compare the output with whatever output we have specified in the monthly amount. So input will be this and output will be this. Okay. So let's say if I create a second row, dollar space 60, let's say 2000. Okay. So our test will run how many times? 2 times. Okay. If I execute it. So I have this, and I'll go back to the view and flip back to the editor view, which is nothing but our original view. Yeah. So you can see it here. It's referring to the data table and loan amount column from the spreadsheet view. That's all we did. Okay, that's all we did. If you know this line of code, then you can just put it in right here. Okay, and the checkpoint is a checkpoint. So if I go here in the object repository and see if I can find my checkpoint. And it's referring to the monthly amount, basically data sheet. Okay. So now I don't have to worry about hard coding anything. I can just change the values here and then run it every time. So if I run this, I'm expecting to run twice. And let's see what it is. So this is the first time. Now it will run the second time. Test. Same test with the different value. Now it's 2060. And sometimes it gets stuck to closing the window and so forth. So let's see, we'll give it some time. Okay, so it closed automatically. Okay, so first one we'll see here. So 30 is passed, and let's see what was the checkpoint. 30. Okay, so first one was input was 1000 and checkpoint was 30. Now here, because it took a little bit time, so let's see what the value. So checkpoint is passed. Okay, 30 element passed. Let's see what the value was. So 60. Okay, so it compared against 60 and it test checkpoint still passed. It just took a little bit time. That's why you see the exclamation mark over there. Now, if you have another amount, right, 2500, you can keep on adding. You don't have to do anything now. And it will run 3 times, 4 times, 100 times, doesn't matter. Okay, and this is what very powerful, I think, in the real world, this particular parameterization, because you will end up using it pretty much a lot of tests in the real life. So kind of like a login, right? You have S training and training, and you are validating admin homepage versus that. You can create something similar to that. Okay, and work through it. Any question? Let me repeat for the S training and training. How about it? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, before I do that, come back here. Let me wipe out these 2 columns. And you can remove it just like anything else. Spreadsheet, right? Delete cell rows and it's gone. Okay. So now I'm going to record a different scenario. So this time I'm looking at S training and training. And let's verify that this value, right? Different values shows up. So here is Charles. If I log in as a HPHP, it would be Herschel and so forth. Okay. So here I'm going to use text checkpoint. So check that Charles is displayed, right? And this star you want to parameterize right there, checkpoint. Okay, remember it. All right. You can always do it later on, but it's better to do it while you're at it. Okay. So here, so I click on parameter, then going to put some meaningful name, display, whatever you want. Okay, click OK. So it will say check that name displayed is displayed between this and this. Pretty straightforward. Okay. And I'm going to close it normally. All right. So now here you want to supply the password as well, right? Different password. So I'm going to change it to set. This is training. All right. So now we want to change this to, we want to parameterize both username and password so that we can successfully log in and validate the text. All right. So here, how do I go about it? I go back to the view, keyword view. Okay. And then I'll click on here, training. First one is a training. I need to parameterize. So I'll click on these 3 dots, create a parameter. And since it's a username, I'll say username. Okay, so it will add the value in the spreadsheet. Same way, I'll repeat the process for training, which is the password, parameter, password. Okay, so now the first record is good. So I'll go flip back to the editor view, and I can see both are correct, pointing to the Excel at below. Okay, so now all I have to do is I'll say Herschel HP. This is another login. And if you have another login like a Germain or something, you can training, and maybe Germain. I don't know what is display, but we'll see. 3. And at this point, I'll just run it. Okay, so S training is done. Second one is HP is done. Third one, let's see what happens. This one is Germain is also there, but let's see if it passed or failed. I don't know. So somehow second one it failed as well, but we'll see why it failed. So captured blank between expected Herschel. So somehow it did not capture the second one properly. Let's see. I think that this one might have the same issue. Yes, it captured something different. So tax checkpoint doesn't work all the time, okay, because of the loading issues and so forth. But the standard checkpoint that we saw working properly works out best all the time. Okay. Any question on the parameterization? I'll let you guys work through whichever scenario you guys feel comfortable. Let's work through one end to end. Make sure you guys can parameterize load calculator or login. Okay, so that it gives you good understanding.